Okay, so this is part 3, I think. Yeah, part 3. So what I've tried to do is split the video up into computers and consoles and games and keep it all separate. So this collection is a mixture of machines that I've bought. Actually, I think all of them are 1999 onwards, apart from the Saturn. So this is the Master System 2. I got this quite recently. There was a fault on my Mega Drive Master System converter, which I later fixed, and it was more expensive to buy a replacement than it was to get this. So I got this for about £2 off eBay. It was one of these, has no cables, has been stored in a loft, not tested, might not work, and I thought I'll take a gamble on it. And it works fine just out of the box. I just had to put the cables in. So it doesn't come with pads or anything, so I just use the Mega Drive ones. This is quite recent. I got this about 6 months ago. I originally had a SNES in 1994, 95, when, might even been 96 as well, when I traded in my Mega Drive. And I was going to buy a 3DO, and then I realised how much it actually cost. So I decided to get a SNES with a load of games instead. And that's the Game Boy, Super Game Boy adapter. So that's Mario Land 2, which is a really good title. Much better than the first one. And this is the Amiga CD32. This I got in 2001 from the Market Vaults in Scarborough, and it came with the SX1 add-on, which plugs in the back. And this, I've looked at in an earlier video, this turns it effectively into an Amiga 1200 if you've got a floppy drive as well, which is on the other shelf, which I'll look at eventually. And yeah, it still works even now. There are some faults that can happen with the sound on this, but apparently you've got to replace a capacitor on it, so this might need some maintenance in a few years, but it seems to work. And yeah, you've probably seen bits of these on earlier videos. This is 2 vinyls of Roger Dean artwork, so if you recognise covers from games like Shadow of the Beast, it's all Roger Dean. But I am a big fan of progressive rock, and yes, for my sins. But yeah, take it or leave it. I think some people like this artwork, some people really hate it. And these are this is an Atari 2600 and a 7800. I got this probably a year or 2 ago from a car boot. There was a guy who had a load of stuff and he was just getting rid of it. I think they were downsizing, and he got loads of it. It must have been like 10 different models of 2600, so he must have been very much into collecting duplicates. And they work. This one works, but the 7800 has been adapted to work with a Mega Drive controller, Mega Drive power supply, and it doesn't work. So I'm not sure whether this is a doorstop or whether it can be fixed. So one of my tasks for the summer is to try and resurrect this machine, because it's probably just a bad joint, soldering joint in there. Hopefully, either that or it's spare parts. This is Mega Drive 2, Mega Drive CD, Mega Drive 2, Mega CD 2. So this one's been modified so that it allows you to play import or Japanese games. So I've filed down the cartridge slot, and there's a couple of switches to do 50-60 Hertz and to do the Japanese European switch. I didn't see the need to put an American switch in there because it's still in English. This is the 32X that I got from talking to a guy on a forum. I'm trying to remember which one it was now. This was years ago. He saw it in Grimsby in a cash converters. I was talking about it, and I looked on eBay, and they were really expensive even at that point. And so this would have been about 1999, 2000. And he said, oh, there's one going for 15 quid. It doesn't come with all the cables, but do you want me to post you? I sent him a check, and there it is. It only came with the Mega Drive 2 connector, and at that point I only had a Mega Drive 1, so I actually bought this and the Mega CD. Yeah, I bought them together so I could use the 32X. It was cheaper than buying the cable, as bizarre as that sounds. I think is there a, no, I'm not going to open that, but I think this was about, I think I've still got a sticker in there. It was about a tenner each for them. And at that point, places like Cash Converters were just trying to get rid of them because no one wanted Mega Drives at that point. They weren't collectible. I don't think people had any nostalgia for them. And people looking at the, you know, the PlayStation 1 and the PS2 was around the corner and the Dreamcast, and I think people just didn't want this stuff anymore. It was dated. Now it's collectible. I suppose it's the same with Sinclair Spectrum and C64. People don't want them for a while, and you could get them dirt cheap on car boots. But waffling. PC Engine, this is a Core Graphics 1. It's the same as the Core Graphics 2. The only difference is they changed the colouring on the Core Graphics 2 to look like the CD-ROM add-on. And that's it really. It's the reason I went for this one, partially it was quite cheap because it didn't come with any cables, but it's got the AV out, which means you can hook it up to a SCART connector. And I think, not sure whether that outputs in 60 Hz or not. This is a Texas TI-99 4A. This is the first computer I ever saw, and it's the same physical unit. So I probably told the story. In 1985, I would have been about 3 years old. My dad brought home 2 machines, and there was a program that he was converting from, I think he was upgrading it from the TI-99 to the BBC, all in BASIC. And he had the 2 machines, and he had 2 tellers, and he was just rewriting the program. I can't remember what it was. It was probably some kind of like accounting software, something like that. Yeah, I'll try and find it, see if he's still got a copy of it somewhere. The thing was, we had this and we had the BBC, and originally we had some cartridges. So this has got a solid, it's a solid state, it's really just a cartridge like the Mega Drive, and we had a few games on it that we had loaned, but it was really hard to get software for this in the UK. It was hard enough to get it for the BBC because the Spectrum and the Sinclair Spectrum and the C64 were a lot more popular, certainly for games, but this, it was nigh on impossible to get games for it. But I do remember a skiing game. I don't have any games for this at the moment, which annoys me a little bit because I don't like having things that I don't use, but I'll see if I can get that skiing game from eBay. It might even be Horace Goes Skiing, maybe. And the Jaguar CD, this was another one from Cash Converters, which I got a bargain basement price, and it just goes to show that it worries me just at that lull. It's great for those of us who got these machines at great prices, but what worries me is how many of them just got thrown away or skipped because they were worth nothing at that point. And yeah, but what can you do? This Jaguar, I mentioned in the previous video, this is the second one I had. Originally I had a Jaguar and it blew up after 31 days and it was just outside the warranty. You know, your statutory rights, and I was going to take it back, and my dad said, well, you don't really seem to be playing it very much. And I'd played the Tempest 2009 Soldier and Alien vs Predator, and I didn't really play on it for much after that, and I thought I'll just get my money back. But because it was just after the warranty, they gave me a replacement one, so this has been working ever since. So this is, original from 1994, and it still works even now. Okay. Oh yeah, I've not said, that is so flimsy. It's like, yeah, it's not good. not a good design. So this, which is a little bit dark because it's in the evening now. This is the Mega Drive and Mega CD that I bought from Sheffield. There was a guy selling it in an ad mag, and this was the first machine that I consciously decided to go back and buy, of it being an old machine. And it was a Japanese one. I didn't intend it to be, and he said, oh, don't worry about it, it'll play all your your Western games because it's got the cartridge slot filed down. Not filed down. It's a larger cartridge slot, which is why you have to file it down on the PAL release, so it'll play anything. And it has a CDX cartridge, so with the Mega CD, this is a Japanese one, but you can play European games with it, which was a really nice setup. And on the back it's got the modem port. What I'll try and do at some point is see if I can hook up a serial modem and see if I can get there's a game called Cyberball which supports it. Even the PAL release does, but if you run it on a Japanese Mega Drive, it will look for the modem port. So I have to give that a try, see if I can get it to work with a dial-up modem with a gender changer at the back, but we'll see. This is my original Sega Saturn, so this is a Model 1, and so it's got the nice smooth action on it. Slightly different than the Model 2 because it's got these oval buttons rather than the grey round ones. This is 50 Hz. I haven't modified this. I didn't want to mod it because even when I read about this in the Sega magazine in the very late 90s, I opened it up and it just looks so difficult to mod, and I gave up with it. And then I thought years later I'll get a Model 2, and I never did. And just before Christmas there was one on eBay, and I thought, well, how much will this go for? And the guy selling it said it had been kept in a barn or a loft, and no, like the Master System, no cables, not tested, and it sold for next to nothing. No one else bidded on it. Maybe one person bidded on it, but yeah, it still works. It's a bit rusty, this kind of oxidizing around the outside, but it still works. But this one's fine. And the GameCube, which, is it retro, isn't it? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Yeah, I'm going to have to do a weekend waffle on this. I think, given that it's now 2 generations behind, we can say it's retro. And it's got the Game Boy Advance adapter on the bottom. And, right, second shelf. So I'll start at the top. This is the Master System converter, which I thought was broken. For many years it would glitch out with games, until I found this. Reach back, which is isopropyl, if I pronounce that correctly. It's like magic. It's alcohol, but the idea is you can spray it in a cap and use like an ear cleaner, and you just rub it on any contacts that have oxidized, and it resurrects cartridges. So if you've got a cartridge that's not, been recognised by a Mega Drive, you just spray this on it, and well, not directly on the cartridge, but spray it on this and just rub it on it, and it works perfectly fine. And yeah, it's really handy to have. Works on the Dreamcast as well. If your Dreamcast is resetting, you take those 4 pins inside between the power supply and the motherboard, rub some of this on it, and it fixes it, and it stops it resetting. So if you've got any dead cartridges or dead hardware, it's worth giving that a try. N64 with a rumble pack. I don't think I've done any videos on this. I've got quite a few games for it. I have to give it a try. I got this. Fortunately, it came with the memory pack. The guy on eBay didn't advertise it, and it was a welcome surprise. I don't know if he knew what he was selling. Amiga 1200. This has just come back from the Amiga group on Saturday, so it gets used quite a lot, and it's got the accelerator card in it. What's in there? Oh, Amiga. Oh, these are some games I got from the Amiga user group. This guy donated some games, so there's Fears in there. I'll have to give that a try. CD based games. Atari ST. This is an Atari ST FM. I originally had an ST back in the day, an STE rather, and I found the compatibility with games was really bad, and very few games actually used the STE enhancements. So this was donated by a very good friend of mine, and I really should give it a bit more attention. I've not done any videos yet, but what I'd like to do is try and get some BBS software set up between this and the Amiga, just because I can, and see if I can do some videos of it very retro style, because it's not just games that got played on these machines, they were used for all sorts. So this is the BBC. This is, like with the Texas, the first computer I ever saw and I ever used. This is the same model. Well, physically it's the same unit. So this is a BBC B, and it has, so we used to use it for word processing. This has slipped a bit, but this is like, you could add, there's like a plastic plate, and you can add like overlay cards, and it slipped a bit because that used to be, that's a speaker under there, and I remember you can see the tape there, we taped it over because it was so loud. You used to get games like Granny's Garden and it'd be yeah, there was no volume on it, and we were very, very, very lucky to have a disk drive, because the games loaded almost instantly compared to tape. Still got some of the original discs there. And just to finish off, is it retro? It's obsolete, so we could say it's retro. HD DVD drive for the Xbox 360. I got a couple of these. I was a bit annoyed. I bought one at full price and then they reduced them down to about 25 quid with 4 films. Still got one hooked up to the 360 downstairs. It still works perfectly fine. And it's better than Blu-ray. But don't tell anyone. Well, Blu-ray's caught up, but I used to like HD DVD because it didn't have region encoding. Original PS1. I didn't have one of these back in the days. This was from a car boot. And just to finish off with, for the hardware, this is very old. I've had this since early 90s, since I was finishing primary school. Atari Lynx. Didn't have that many games for it as a kid because they were quite expensive, and they're not the most reliable. You've got to use the alcohol cleaner on them, but that's the Lynx 2. So that has... yeah, I did do a video on this. I looked at the Stun Runner manual. It's got the cigarette lighter as well, so you can use it in the car to charge. And Desert Strike, good conversion. Toki, I looked at that earlier. That's a very, very good conversion for the Lynx. I think it's a lot better than the Mega Drive version. Dino Olympics, Shanghai. It's a puzzle game. Baseball Heroes. I think that was one I got cheap from a cash converters. I think I played that very little. Slap on the wrist. Hard drive. I think that's the only version I've ever played. I don't think I've ever played the arcade or the Mega Drive version. Electrocop. It's an original game, as in it doesn't have the lip on the side. So this is for the first generation Lynx. Got a lot of sprite scaling in it. It's a very good game. Stun Runner. See, it's got the lip on it. Rygar. It's an arcade conversion. Really hard, but a very good game. Graphically, it's a good use of the hardware and the colour palette. California Games. Shadow of the Beast. Looks nice, but Shadow of the Beast wasn't the best playing game, and on a handheld it's really hard to play. Switchblade 2, just like the ST version. It's a great game. Right, okay, so that's the computers and consoles shelf. So hopefully that might ease a bit of curiosity, because I've had a few people asking me, what's that behind you? Is it a CD32? Is it something else? So hopefully that should give you a complete picture. There are a couple more machines that I have set up, that I keep permanently set up, so I'll come back to those probably in video 3 or video 4. So thanks for watching. The next video I will look at a few more shelves of games for the Japanese Saturn, European Saturn, Dreamcast, that kind of thing.